Did you know that the 2017 Greenland tsunami was triggered by a massive glacier collapse, sending waves over 90 feet high crashing into the coastline? This massive event, which happened on June 17, 2017, is one of the rare occasions where such a destructive natural disaster was caught on camera. The footage is breathtaking and shows the immense power of nature, reminding us just how fragile our planet can be. The incident took place in the Karat Fjord, a remote part of western Greenland. Greenland is home to the world's second largest ice sheet, which is over 3 kilometers thick in some places. This massive ice sheet has been shrinking rapidly over the past century, mainly due to rising temperatures. The ice loss is accelerating, and the result is something we're only starting to understand. The loss of ice leads to the collapse of glaciers, creating a dangerous ripple effect that can cause catastrophic events. In the case of this tsunami, the glacier that collapsed had been rapidly melting and breaking off into the fjord, adding pressure to the ice and ultimately causing the dramatic collapse. The tsunami itself was not caused by an earthquake, as most tsunamis are. Instead, it was triggered by the sudden and violent collapse of a section of the glacier into the fjord. When a large section of ice breaks off from the glacier, it can displace a significant amount of water. This displacement generates a huge wave, which in this case surged over 90 feet high. The enormous wave quickly moved toward the shore, sending water crashing into the surrounding coastline. Although the event occurred in a relatively remote area, the power of the tsunami was still strong enough to be recorded and studied by researchers who happened to be in the area at the time. This moment, captured on film, serves as a reminder of the terrifying power that nature can unleash. It also highlights just how vulnerable areas like Greenland are to the effects of climate change. Rising temperatures are melting the glaciers at an alarming rate, and these massive ice sheets are contributing to the rising sea levels we've been hearing about for years. When ice sheets melt and glaciers collapse, they don't just contribute to sea level rise, they can trigger other catastrophic events, like this one. The 2017 Greenland tsunami is just one example of how our changing climate is leading to increasingly extreme and dangerous natural disasters. The wave itself was incredibly dramatic. The scientists who filmed it were able to capture not just the size of the wave, but also the sense of how quickly it came crashing down. The image of that giant wall of water moving toward the shore, with plumes of water rising into the air, is unforgettable. It's a terrifying reminder that no matter how much we may think we control our environment, nature is still in charge, and sometimes it has the power to reshape everything in an instant. So, what exactly happened in Greenland that day, and what caused the glacier to collapse? The ice sheets in Greenland have been under stress for a long time. As the temperatures rise, the ice sheet begins to melt, weakening its structure. In the case of the Karat Fjord, a piece of the glacier became unstable, and it eventually cracked and fell into the fjord. This sudden release of ice caused the displacement of water, which created a wave so large that it crashed into the shoreline with unimaginable force. Though this was a relatively isolated area, the scale of the event makes it a warning sign of how climate change could affect coastal communities in the future. The fact that this event was caught on camera is one of the rare opportunities we have to witness nature's power in such a dramatic way. While this tsunami did not cause significant loss of life, it serves as a stark reminder of the dangers that climate change and glacial activity can bring. In the coming parts, we'll explore how the tsunami impacted the region, the aftermath, and the lasting effects of this event on our understanding of climate change's potential to create such sudden and severe natural disasters. The Karat Fjord tsunami on June 17, 2017 was a stark demonstration of the overwhelming force nature can unleash. What made this event even more remarkable was the rarity of such occurrences. While tsunamis are often associated with earthquakes, this one was triggered by the collapse of a massive glacier, which is an event that doesn't happen every day. The glacier's collapse created an enormous wave, sending it barreling toward the coast at a speed and size that was beyond comprehension. Scientists, researchers, and residents in the area witnessed something that few people ever experience firsthand: a natural disaster of this scale and power. The real story here isn't just the tsunami itself, but the warning signs that preceded it. For years before the collapse, the ice sheet in Greenland had been melting at an accelerated rate. This rapid melting isn't just a phenomenon we're seeing in Greenland, it's part of a much larger pattern of global warming and climate change. As the temperatures rise, glaciers, which were once stable, begin to break apart and release huge chunks of ice into the surrounding waters. This process, known as calving, is not unusual, but the scale at which it occurred in this instance was beyond what most experts anticipated. What set the 2017 Greenland tsunami apart from others was the sheer size of the glacier collapse. The Karet Fjord, where the glacier had been slowly eroding, became the site of one of the most dramatic natural events in recent history. The collapse of the glacier was so sudden and violent that it displaced a huge volume of water, which led to the creation of a giant wave. This tsunami was so powerful that it reached up to 90 feet in height. The size and speed at which it traveled is a reminder of just how quickly natural disasters can strike, especially when driven by larger environmental factors like the melting ice sheets. While the tsunami did not cause fatalities, it was a wake-up call. It's one thing to hear about the melting of the Greenland ice sheet or the rising sea levels, but it's another thing entirely to see the immediate effects of those changes in real time. This wasn't a slow-moving crisis. This was something sudden and uncontrollable. The collapse of the glacier, followed by the formation of a massive tsunami, showed just how fragile our coastlines are. The event underscored the dangers coastal communities face due to the effects of climate change and how rapidly things can go from a minor event to something devastating. Scientists who were working in the area that day were fortunate to capture this extraordinary moment on film. The footage not only allowed us to witness the power of the wave, but also gave us a glimpse into the forces of nature that we often overlook. Seeing a glacier collapse in real time, followed by a tsunami crashing against the shore, provided an unparalleled perspective on the vulnerability of areas like Greenland to the changes caused by global warming. It's these types of events that serve as a visual reminder of the broader environmental challenges we face as a planet. Greenland's ice sheet has been shrinking for decades, but the events of June 17, 2017 made it painfully clear just how severe the consequences of this shrinking are. The aftermath of this tsunami was immediate and violent, but its long-term effects may be even more profound. As more glaciers continue to collapse and ice sheets melt, the world will be faced with a rising number of unpredictable and catastrophic events, from larger waves and stronger storms to increasingly devastating natural disasters that affect not just remote regions but coastal cities around the world. The Greenland tsunami stands as a symbol of the kind of dangers we will increasingly face in the years to come if we don't take action. But what can be done to stop the process? Scientists and experts are continually studying these changes, seeking ways to predict such events and protect vulnerable communities. The solutions aren't easy, and they require global cooperation. But understanding the causes, the impacts, and the magnitude of such events is the first step toward addressing the wider climate crisis, and ensuring that future generations don't have to live through the devastating consequences of a rapidly changing world. The immediate aftermath of the June 17, 2017 tsunami in Greenland was both breathtaking and terrifying. The wave, with its massive force, reshaped the landscape of the Karet Fjord in ways that were hard to comprehend. While the event itself was over in a matter of minutes, the damage it caused would last for much longer. It wasn't just the destruction of the glacier itself. The real devastation came from the massive wave it created. As it crashed into the coastline, it left behind a scene of complete destruction. In the hours after the tsunami, the coastline was left in a state of disarray. Huge chunks of ice that had broken off from the glacier were scattered all along the shore. Rocks, trees, and debris were tossed around, some carried far from their original locations. The violent force of the wave had reshaped the coastline, washing away anything in its path. It wasn't just the physical destruction that was concerning. The event also revealed the delicate balance of the area's ecosystem. The fjord, which was home to a variety of wildlife, had been disturbed. The turbulent waters displaced marine life and caused irreversible damage to the natural environment. As the waves receded, it became clear that this was a dramatic reminder of how quickly nature can change, how fragile our ecosystems are, and how easily they can be disrupted by even a single catastrophic event. Though the immediate impact was catastrophic, the tsunami also served as an environmental warning. The glacier that collapsed, sending the huge wave crashing toward the shore, had been melting at an accelerating rate. This wasn't just an isolated incident, it was a small glimpse into the future of what could happen if global warming continues to progress at its current pace. If these glacial collapses become more common, the number of such tsunamis may rise, leading to even greater destruction in coastal areas. The loss of ice from the Greenland ice sheet has already contributed to rising sea levels, which in turn has made coastal communities more vulnerable to storms and flooding. This particular event was like a microcosm of the much larger challenges that lie ahead if nothing is done to slow the effects of climate change. The fact that the tsunami in Greenland occurred in a remote area where human life was not lost was in many ways a small blessing. However, the power of this natural disaster made it clear that it could happen anywhere. Coastal communities around the world, particularly those in low-lying areas, are at risk of similar events if the glaciers continue to melt at this alarming rate. It's a reminder that, although these events are still rare, their potential to cause widespread damage is significant. As we learn from these events, it's essential that we invest in understanding the science behind glacial activity and tsunamis and how we can better predict and prepare for such disasters in the future. In the days and weeks following the tsunami, researchers from around the world flocked to the area to study the impact of the wave and the glacier collapse. The footage captured by scientists working in the region became a valuable resource, providing insights into the power of these kinds of natural events. But the true impact of the tsunami on Greenland's environment and the larger issue of climate change became a central focus for many experts. This one event acted as a stark reminder that the problems caused by global warming are not just about rising temperatures, they are about the complete disruption of ecosystems, the destruction of landscapes, and the unpredictable chain reactions that can follow. As experts began to analyze the data and the footage of the event, one thing became clear: we are entering a new era of climate risk. Events like the Greenland tsunami are not isolated occurrences, but part of a larger pattern of increasingly extreme weather events and natural disasters. The changing climate is already reshaping the world around us, and as we continue to see more and more of these kinds of events, the importance of taking action to address climate change becomes even more urgent. The impact of the Greenland tsunami serves as a cautionary tale, one that reminds us of the pressing need to tackle the environmental crisis before it's too late. The June 17, 2017, Greenland tsunami was a wake-up call, a stark reminder of the growing dangers of climate change and the powerful forces of nature that we are only beginning to understand. While the destruction caused by the massive wave was extraordinary, the most alarming aspect of the event was the role that the melting glaciers and rising temperatures played in its creation. Greenland, with its vast ice sheet that has been slowly but surely shrinking over the past century, is at the forefront of this global crisis. The event wasn't just an isolated disaster, it was a clear sign of the devastating consequences of climate change. The Greenland tsunami serves as a powerful symbol of what can happen when nature's delicate balance is upset by human activity, particularly the burning of fossil fuels and the unchecked emission of greenhouse gases. Looking forward, it is clear that we need to pay more attention to the effects of glacial collapse and the associated risk of tsunami waves. Although the June 2017 disaster did not result in significant loss of life, the next event could easily take place in a more populated region with far-reaching consequences. The rapid rate at which Greenland's glaciers are melting suggests that tsunamis like the one we witnessed may become more frequent. As the glaciers continue to shed enormous amounts of ice into the sea, the risks of larger, more destructive tsunamis become more apparent. This is especially concerning for low-lying coastal areas around the world, where people are already facing the threat of rising sea levels and storm surges. Communities that live in these vulnerable regions must prepare for the worst and take measures to protect themselves. In addition to preparing for the immediate effects of such events, it is essential that we focus on long-term solutions to mitigate the causes of climate change. Reducing carbon emissions, transitioning to renewable energy sources, and implementing stronger environmental protection policies are all key steps that can help slow the melting of glaciers and the rise in sea levels. By addressing these root causes, we can not only reduce the risks of tsunamis, but also help stabilize the global climate for future generations. The event in Greenland should be seen not just as an isolated disaster, but as part of a larger trend of increasingly extreme weather events, driven by climate change. As we move forward, it's important to remember that the 2017 Greenland tsunami is not just a story of destruction, but also one of resilience and hope. The scientific community has responded to this event with a renewed commitment to studying and understanding the effects of climate change. Researchers are now more focused than ever on developing better tools and technologies to predict glacial calving, monitor sea levels, and warn communities about the potential for future tsunamis. The lessons learned from this event are helping us prepare for similar disasters in the future, but much more needs to be done. Increased funding for climate science, stronger international cooperation, and better disaster preparedness are crucial if we hope to protect vulnerable communities from the full impact of climate change. In conclusion, the 2017 Greenland tsunami is a powerful reminder that we cannot afford to ignore the impacts of climate change any longer. It is a call to action for all of us to do our part in slowing the destruction of our planet and protecting future generations from the devastating consequences of extreme weather events. While the wave that crashed into the Greenland coastline was a breathtaking display of nature's power, it also serves as a sobering warning of what lies ahead if we do not act swiftly and decisively. Let the tsunami be a symbol of change, a symbol that urges us to take responsibility for our environment before it's too late. The question is, will we heed the call?